I recently introduced you to Munich's beer gardens, and I've also made videos about things that cost little or nothing in Munich. I haven't yet introduced you to the best thing about summer in Munich that costs nothing at all. Munich's green lung, the Isar River. The Isar rises in the Austrian Alps and flows into the Danube after 292 kilometers. Only about 14 kilometers of this is in the Munich city area. But even here the landscape is so diverse, from extremely urban to rural, that you feel like you're somewhere in the wilderness. For this video I didn't start in the far north of the city, nevertheless I would like to mention two places there. If you walk upstream from the Autobahn along the Isar, you will find the northern part of the English Garden on the right hand side and come across the Föhringer Wehr, where the bridge of the Bishop of Freising once stood, over which the salt trade ran in Roman times, until Duke Henry the Lion burnt it down in the 12th century. A little further upstream, the Eisbach flows into the Isar, one of the few remaining tributaries of the Isar, where surfers ride the river waves in the southern part of the English Garden. However, I started this video at the Luitpold Bridge, below the Friedensengel, the Angel of Peace. As you can see here, the Isar is deeply embedded. At the end of the 19th century, the Isar was heavily regulated. At this time, the Isar was also an important trade route. Grain, cheese and other goods were transported downstream on rafts. Some of the wood was simply thrown into the river and collected downstream. Today the Isar is no longer used for transporting goods. A regulated river guaranteed better navigability. With the linear riverbed, which was dammed by dikes, the city was able to move closer to the river. The best example of this is the Coal Island, which later became Museum Island and is now home to the Deutsches Museum. Of course, this led to other problems, but more on that later. From the Friedensengel you can walk through a beautiful park, the Maximiliansanlage, to the Maximilianeum. Halfway there you will come to a pumping station from the 1850s that pumps water from the Isar River to the surrounding fountains. From the Maximilianeum, where the Bavarian Parliament now meets, you can cross the Maximiliansbridge to Prater Insel, one of the larger islands in the Munich city area. Perhaps you are familiar with the Prater in Vienna, the amusement district in Vienna. Here in Munich too, people celebrated on the Prater Island until the middle of the 19th century. But later the Riemerschmidt Spirits factory moved its premises here. And in fact it was not until the late 1990s that the site was open to the public. Today concerts, parties and exhibitions are often held here. One of the first Christmas markets also opens here every year in November. There is also a basketball court and table tennis tables, which can be used free of charge. The Alpine Museum is also located here, which I will of course have to include in my videos about Munich's museums. Between Prater Island and Museum Island there are many footbridges where you can stroll across the Isar River. On the western bank you can see St. Luke's Church. It is the third oldest Lutheran church in Munich. It was completed in 1896 and was spared from bombing during the war. On the eastern side is the Muffatwerk. Here you will also find one of the few beer gardens in Munich that are open longer than 11 p.m. The transition from beer garden to nightlife is seamless here. In front of the Muffatwerk is the Müllersche Volksbad, one of the most beautiful Art Nouveau baths in Europe. From the footbridges you can also discover a few things, such as sleeping ducks or sunbathers on the gravel banks of the Isar. You can find lovelocks on the footbridges, but these are just vandalism. I also discovered something creepy under the Maximilian Bridge. Teddy bears and stuffed rabbits are hanging there. Despite extensive research, I couldn't find out why. There are no indication of an accident or crime, so it's probably just an art installation. Also, it's a creepy one, because the footbridge is very dark at night. Let's get out of here, across the Ludwigsbridge to Museum Island. I've already made a video about the Deutsches Museum, so I'll keep it short here. Behind it, from the Corneliusbrücke Bridge onwards, the Isar changes its appearance. As mentioned earlier, the confinement and straightening of the river also had many negative consequences. The flow velocity increased, and there were no longer any niches for wildlife where water birds could breed and fishes could spawn. And more tragically for humans, flooding occurred more frequently and more rapidly. That is why the southern part of the Isar in the city, starting at the Deutsches Museum, was renaturalized between 2000 and 2011. Today, especially when the weather is nice, the southern part is ideal for enjoying the sun, playing soccer or volleyball, and perhaps cooling off in the water from time to time. The Isar here is a wonderful place to pick up a bottle of beer from the nearest supermarket or kiosk, and maybe even enjoy a pizza from the nearest delivery service on the banks of the Isar. Of course, this also creates rubbish, which is why there are large rubbish bins everywhere along the Isar. Please use them so that others can enjoy the Isar too. There are even restrooms for human relief. Crossing the Wittelsbacher Bridge, you come to the Braunauer Railway Bridge, which is an industrial monument. It was completed in 1871 and is still used as a railway bridge today. Further south you come to Brudermühl Bridge. Munich's middle ring road runs over it. South of it, however, you are met by a completely different smell. And that's not because of the nearby thermal power station, which only burns gas anyway. No, here it starts to smell of charcoal and sausages, because barbecuing is allowed from here on. Ideal for those who don't have their own garden. The Isar River can serve as a refrigerator. Simply place a crate of beer in the Isar and the beer will stay cool. It is important to always fill the empty beer bottles with water when you put them back in the crate. Otherwise, the crate will eventually become too light and float away to the next party upriver. And here too, it is important to clean up after the party. When barbecuing, it is best to keep a distance from trees and extinguish the embers when you are finished. By the way, there is at least one kiosk at every bridge that can supply you with the essentials, aka beer. A little further upstream is the Flaucher. This section of the river with its many shallow tributaries attracts lots of families who want their children to be able to splash around safely. But nudists also love the wide gravel banks here. In fact, there are even more nudists here than in the tourist-packed English Garden. And the further upstream you go, the more there are. The penultimate stop is the Thalkirchner Bridge. If you continue south from there, you will see something strange. Is that a moose? In the middle of Munich? The mystery is quickly solved. Munich Zoo is located on the eastern bank, and I simply looked over the fence. The Thalkirchner Bridge is also exit point for the rubber dinghy paddlers on the Isar. Many take the S-Bahn to Wolfratshausen, get into the Isar there and paddle to this point. Otherwise, rubber dinghy paddling is prohibited in the city area. Accidents involving rubber dinghies occur frequently on the Isar, which is why there are a few rules to follow. I'm going to make a rubber dinghy video in the future, but I'm afraid it won't be until next year. I end my tour at the Marienklausen bridge. Behind the weir, when the water is low, as it is here, a natural pool forms where you can swim without much current. However, the weir can also become a deadly trap during floods. Water rolls form here. Accidents happen here time and again because people overestimate their abilities. The Isar is still a wild river and not a water park. It wants to be treated with respect. Basically though, you'll be fine if you use common sense. Assess your swimming ability correctly, if the Isar is as emerald green and clear as it is today, then swimming is relatively safe. But if it is brown and turbulent, do not go near it. In addition, the water quality is usually not good on those days. After rain, many pesticides and manure are often washed into the Isar from the fields. Otherwise, the water quality in the Isar is good. Nevertheless, I would avoid swallowing the water. I would like to briefly mention that the raft landing stage is located on the western bank at the Marienklausen bridge, where rafts arrive today. Of course, they do not carry valuable goods, but today raft trips on the Isar are pleasure trips. I have one more good tip for you. When you come to the Isar, bring flip-flops or surf shoes like I did, because these large pebbles, which were brought here by the last ice age, are really not that comfortable, unless you have hobbit feet and don't mind. There is still so much to tell, but the video is already over 10 minutes long, and the way I produce videos, it always takes even so much longer. It's just more work than simply talking into a camera, so I have to wrap it up. So I hope you enjoyed the video about the Isar River. As you can see, I'm all sweaty, so I need some fresh cooling. I will use my GoPro to jump into the water to show you how that is like, and if you're ever here at the Isar River, maybe not this summer, maybe next summer, enjoy it, enjoy the time here, have a cool beer, maybe order a pizza, maybe grill, and enjoy your time. And very important, like and subscribe, and I see you in the next video.